there would be very less number of people who would say that they do not know the story of Ekalavya, or they are not touched by the story of Ekalavya, or there would be very less number of people who would say that what happened to Ekalavya was fine. It's okay. Nobody. Nobody would say that, believe that. But then, okay, let me just initiate the story in brief first. So Ekalavya was a tribal boy who had created, who wanted to be tutored by Dronacharya, but Dronacharya was already the palace tutor, he was the royal tutor, and he was out of his reach. But he so much wanted to be tutored by Dronacharya and be his student and his best student, that it led to something unthinkable. What he did was he gathered some materials and created a statue of Dronacharya and started practicing in front of that statue, believing that Dronacharya was teaching him. And with that motivation, he actually became one of the greatest archers of his times. Now, one of the days, Dronacharya and Arjun were together in the forest, and that very day, Ekalavya was practicing and there was a dog barking. So what Ekalavya did was, he could not stop the dog from barking. So what he did was, he threw a stream of arrows. Those arrows went and stopped exactly into the mouth of the dog and stopped it from barking. So its mouth was open, a stream of arrows here, and it could not close its mouth to be able to bark. It had its mouth open. Now this dog was running all around, and eventually it came at the place where Arjuna and Dronacharya was traveling, and Arjun was spellbound that what is this? Who did this? And whoever had done this had not injured the dog, it had just disabled it from barking. So that was fascinating, a wonderful work of perfect use of the pointed head of the arrow, and someone had to have a particular understanding of where the arrow must reach and to what extent it should enter so that it doesn't pierce, at the same time it does its job. So Arjun was obviously very, very impressed, but he was not impressed to the extent that he congratulated. He was more afraid. He asks Dronacharya that, I am supposed to be your favorite student. Then how can another person have the kind of skill that even I don't have yet? Dronacharya lands up in front of Ekalavya and gets to know that Ekalavya has built a statue of his, and he had been practicing standing before it. And today he is that kind of an archer. So Dronacharya says very proudly that in that case, if I am your guru, then I should have a guru dakshina. And if I should have a guru dakshina, you are supposed to give it to me. And Ekalavya says, see, I'll be happy to give you. Dronacharya says that you cut off your thumb and give it to me. Cutting off the thumb means Ekalavya will not be able to use the bow and arrow with equal fineness. So the entire skill that he has acquired all by himself, believing that he had learnt it from Dronacharya, everything goes. Basically, Dronacharya takes away from him everything that he had not learned. Ekalavya being Ekalavya doesn't think twice before chopping off his thumb and giving it to Dronacharya. If you bring that to modern life, each and every person who is extremely talented and is self-made and has a lot to his or her credit, worked really hard, more often than not has to face resistance from someone who has had it all, who has had all kinds of privileges, and that privileged person is suddenly intimidated by the rising talent And so the immediate reaction of that privileged talent is to suppress the rising talent. This has nothing to do with girl, boy, Brahmin, Shudra, Hindu, Muslim. No, it applies for everybody. This is the truth of life that I was talking to you about, that our Indian epics are constantly telling us about certain truth of life, so that we are aware of it and we are more prepared to face them when they happen to us. The purpose of telling children about the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which is a tradition in most Indian households, that every child grows up hearing, and the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata are the first stories that a child hears. The purpose of it is to tell the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata and the meanings and interpretation behind each story, so that they are aware of certain truth of life. We tell the stories, we do not tell the meanings, the interpretations, we do not explain the metaphors. So when a child hears that Dronacharya chopped off, wanted Ekalavya's thumb to be chopped off, there is some kind of discomfort in the child's brain. The child is not told that this is not something that he really wanted. The purpose of the story is something different, and it's so important that these meanings be told, so that the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata are put to better use. I urge, if you are hearing this, I urge all of you to please keep this in mind. If you are ever the one to tell a child the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, please interpret it for the child, so that it becomes easier for him or her to apply it in the later life. It does not matter the gender, the caste, the religion, no other divisive factor matters. The truth is to be told in the simplest way. Thank you so much.